And in the latest, what we are tracking is that as per the deal between the Israel and the Hamas. Now, Hamas is set to release 3 hostages, while Israel will free nearly 2,000 prisoners. Israel and Hamas are scheduled to commence the discussions next week regarding the second phase of the ceasefire agreement, aiming to secure the freedom of the remaining captives. While in fact, at this point of time, what we are given to understand is the fact that Hamas has released hostages in the southern Gaza Strip on Saturday as part of its ceasefire deal with Israel. With the Palestinian authorities, in fact, said that Israel has agreed to release dozens of prisoners in the 4th round of exchange. The 6-week phase, once one truce, calls for the release of 33 hostages and nearly 22,000 prisoners, as well as the return of Palestinians to the northern Gaza and an increase in humanitarian aid to the devastated territory. My colleague Aditya is joining me live on the broadcast. Aditya, this is a 6-phase truce between the release of the hostages and the ceasefire agreement. The total release of 33 hostages and nearly 2,000 prisoners. When we talk about, in fact, the Palestinian and Israel's ceasefire deal, the Israel and Hamas are set to, in fact, next week begin negotiating the second phase of the ceasefire, which calls for releasing the remaining hostages and extending the humanitarian aid and the hostages for the truce indefinitely. The war could resume if at all the agreement would not reach. This is very concerning. Take us to the details of what's exactly happening and what has been achieved so far in the ceasefire deal.
Well, as far as the ceasefire deal is concerned, both the sides have exchanged prisoners. Recently what has happened, Hamas did release 3 Israeli hostages to the Red Cross Society there. What has happened, one of the Israeli hostage who was freed by Hamas was Agam Berger, 20. Soon after she was released by Hamas, the Red Cross team in the northern Gaza escorted her to the over to the border across Israel, and from there on she was taken to the city hospital where she received treatment. Her family members were also present there. What had happened soon after this, 3 hostages were released by Hamas. The spy agency of Israel, Mossad, had tweeted that at least all are very happy that Agam Berger is free from the clutches of the savages. So, so far, what had happened, before the Hamas released 3 hostages to Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu wasn't very happy about the condition of the Israeli captives that were freed by Hamas, and that is why after the 3 Israeli hostages were released by Hamas, the Palestinian prisoners the release of the Palestinian prisoners by Israel was delayed by some time, because he had appointed one person to look after the Israeli PM had appointed one person to look after the release of the Palestinian prisoners. So, as so far, the exchanges of hostages in the 6th phase has happened, as you rightly pointed out, but there are certain disagreements, over the conditions of the hostages. In between, what has happened, some of the 8 Israeli hostages were confirmed dead by the Israeli Defense Forces, due to which they were angered at the Hamas. As far as the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas is concerned. So it needs to be seen as to how this entire, by when would the entire prisoners on both the Israeli hostages as well as the Palestinian prisoners are freed by on both the sides, Simran. Yes.
All right, Aditya. Thank you very much for sharing these details and giving us more information. Now, viewers, on